am very pleased to introduce today's first demo with Dextego. Make sales enablement seamless with autonomous sales coaching. We have with us Ioana Onassi, co-founder and CEO of Dextego, to guide you through their first demo today. And I'm going to pass it over to her so she can take it away.
Thank you, Alexandria. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Such a pleasure to be here with all of you today. Can I share my screen, Alexandria?
Yeah, go for it.
Awesome. So I will try to keep it as engaging as possible. So feel free to ask any questions or give comments in the chat. I'll just go through a few slides, a couple, like we'll say like 4 or 5 slides here at the beginning, and then we'll dive into a demo. So in short, if you ask me to tell you why should you care and really what's this demo, is because our platform can help you 4x win rates. And we've done extensive research on the topic, but even before founding Dextego, I was so fascinated about this topic because I led sales enablement in teams. And I started to see that no matter the hours and hours that we put into training, win rates weren't going up. So I realized that, and of course, it's not just me saying it, but I realized there are 3 main reasons why we see tons of money being wasted when it comes to training and development for sales teams. One being that today, even if you have one small bad interaction with a client, that's it, they're done. They're not spending more time speaking to you. And with 70% of actually buyers not even wanting to speak to a salesperson, we see that the one little thing that's weak about your sales process can cost you a lot of money. Now, wasted training resources don't just mean lack of, for instance, personalization, but they might mean lack of good timing. It's not only in onboarding that we need sales teams to learn the value proposition and your sales process, it's continuous. Specifically, I think the most important time is the time that you spend preparing before you have that client conversation. So what do? We offer personalized coaching at scale in order to increase the efficacy and adherence of your sales process and make sure you're able to retain clients and expand revenue through post-sales enablement. How we do that? We combine the best world-class sales expertise out there, working with sales experts across fields from negotiation to strategy. And also we take into account your internal data, being either your CRM, your sales playbook, or other best practices that you upload in the system, massing this up with our proprietary AI to create this personalized experience that makes sense for you. So every time, that's a common question I get, every time we onboard a new client, we create a data set just for them. So it gets better for your end users and nobody else that we work with. Now, to be honest, I said that earlier, people don't have patience anymore, and your team cannot practice in front of the client. So Dextego provides a safe space for them where they can practice their pitches, learn how to handle objections, and really have a safe space that gives them unbiased, personalized feedback. So what are we actually not? We're not a sales learning management system, and we're not call recording tool like Gong or Chorus, because truly what we aim to do is help your team be able to speak to the right person and say the right thing no matter where they are. Maybe it's not on Zoom, maybe it's not on Teams, maybe they're in a trade show, maybe they're just stepping out and meeting a potential prospect. We want them to be able to have the soft skills they need to have these right conversations. So we are in this new era of AI coaching tools, and I'll go ahead and take you right into the platform itself. Let me go ahead and share my other screen. All right, and welcome to the web app. Now, key point here is that the platform gets personalized according to your role and industry. So in this example, you'll see on the top right, I'll act as the SDR in IT. So say I just had a client call and I have a question I don't want to go to my manager about. I can come here and ask my AI coach for advice. For instance, I had asked here, how can I ensure my clients are satisfied once they get onboarded? Maybe I want to ask for help with negotiation of a contract. So I can say, how can I negotiate a 2-year license when the prospect wants 1 year? Now, especially for common questions that sales leaders end up repeating themselves many times during the quarter, this is perfect. Keep in mind, and I'll turn off the audio here so it's not annoying every time I click, but keep in mind that this is very user-centric. So the user can always say how they feel and how satisfied they are with every interaction that they have with the AI coach, and that will help continuously improve the output. Now, that was simply a chat function, but what I love the most about Dextego is the interactive learning. So you can come here and actually practice, whether you're practicing a prospect like a discovery call or a renewal, no matter where you're in the sales cycle, Dextego can be of tremendous help. So let's take an example. Let's say I'm pitching to a CRO, I'm pitching Dextego, and my goal is to just do a demo. I can now select from pre-populated here pitches that I had added previously. Let's say I want this elevator pitch, and it's a small example here, but you can add as much content here as you want. And I'm basically telling Dextego, hey, make sure when I practice, I hit all the points in this elevator pitch. Now, if I don't have one already written down, I can also create new learning content and leverage our AI by giving it some feedback here again on the context of the practice, whether it's a discovery or it's a renewal, etc. And my AI coach will create this for me. So let's say I'm choosing the existing one here. It's up to me as the end user if I want to practice via video. Now we are on video, so I can actually do it, but I can also choose text, and I can write my typical response as if I was speaking to that prospect to get personalized feedback back. So let's see an example of what that looks like. We have built in an emotion engine that analyzes how the seller presents. Whether it's their sentiment, their eye contact, positivity, and confidence, we try to make them self-aware of how they speak. It doesn't mean they have to all sound the same, but it's important that they know how the person perceives them. Sometimes we think we did this amazing job and then we lose a deal and we're like, what happened? And people that use, for instance, call recorders go back and see at the end of like maybe that month how they did, but it's too late. You have to get that feedback really on the spot, especially today that feedback loops have become so tight. If I go and pitch somebody and it ends up bad, I need to change my behavior tomorrow. I can't wait till next quarter. So what is the type of coaching we can get from Dextego? As you see here in the middle, we have these 8 fields that can help give coaching tips on things like persuasiveness, where you see a score, and then you see what you missed. For instance, I maybe missed here some specific benefits. It's not just about being a robot, right? Like just saying what the script says. It's about connecting the right KPI and the value proposition to the right persona. So this is what Dextego helps you do. Make sure you hit the right points for the right context, and will even refine the version of your pitch. So all these things can be customized depending on what you care about. For instance, we have clients that don't care so much about the knowledge of the tool, rather they care about sounding credible and persuasive. That's not what I would prefer, but I'm telling you, there's sellers and sellers out there. It's important to know what you care about and making sure that the sales coach works out for you. And that's, I think, the evolution with AI, right? It's just not one size fits all. The key here with doing these pitches is actually that we can track reps' coachability. And what does coachability mean? It means that even if you start at, let's say, 5 out of 10, you're showing actual learning capability, learning agility. You're showing signs that you can develop fast and you're not just staying stagnant. Then we dive into specifically the skills you're improving, your strengths and your weaknesses. And in this particular case, we see an example of a seller that is struggling with negotiation. So now you as the sales manager can come in your next one-on-one knowing how to help that person. You're not starting from scratch. You can even see how they're doing in comparison to others in their team or to other regions, and get all these data analytics to really improve your sales process. Same for the pitching skills. We can see if a seller is a balanced person, or back to the example I said earlier, they're lacking knowledge, but they're sounding credible. Now, this was basically an example of using like role plays and AI coaching to practice. Practice something that you have on paper. But what about all the unexpected situations that happen during the sales cycle? All the objections we get? That's where challenges come in. Challenges are scenario-based situations that you can have either created from our AI or again customized based on the ones that your reps get pretty often. And they tend to focus on one skill at a time. So in this example, we have one for communication. It says, during a sales call with a potential client, you're discussing the benefits of the product, but struggling to clearly articulate key features and advantages, leaving the prospect confused and disinterested. So what do you do to change the situation is the question. How do you communicate better? Similarly to before with a pitch, you can answer through video or through text and get feedback back. Now, what a lot of our users end up doing, because I'll tell you a secret, salespeople are very competitive. They see, for instance, a challenge score that was low. They go back and actually redo it. And that's where the learning happens. By constantly practicing again and again your areas of weakness in a micro-learning fashion, right? A few minutes a day, you end up developing tremendously over time. And the cool thing here is that you can see that growth. You see your top skills over time, and you make sure you're on top of your own learning. So I go back to the user-centric learning. It's not someone assigning you a course. It's you taking charge of your learning because you see the benefit in the day-to-day. Now, last point also here, and I'll go to the questions before we jump into the admin panel, is that we've done hundreds of interviews with salespeople. And we've noticed that a key component in their performance is actually motivation. And sometimes they don't have that manager that listens and tells them, hey, it's okay, or it's going to be better next quarter. So we embedded inspiration in the platform. Inspiration aims to boost morale. So let's say you're in a situation, you can type that in here, where, for instance, you spoke to a prospect for 3 months and then they ghosted you. Or that negotiation didn't end up the way you wanted it. You can put it here as focused inspiration and get the support that you're missing in the moment. Or else you do a random inspiration based on what the AI coach knows about you, and you really get to full connected to this. I mean, it's an AI coach, but it's something that really gets to know you better and better every day. So it helps you overcome your own obstacles. And this is our #1 used feature. So it just speaks on the importance of supporting and boosting the morale of sales teams. Similarly to before, you give your feedback and becomes better over time. So that's a very quick overview of the end user experience. And the last thing I'll say is that it's actually taking into account your performance. So it's gamified and you get points and rewards afterwards. So let me see very quickly here the questions, and we'll dive into the admin panel. So yeah. I'm going to go ahead.
I was going to say, do you want me to help read this one from Russell? Sure. Or he asked about, since there's so much of natural language processing that's built into these large language models, and it seems like users might need to have to master language, logic, ethics to do effective prompting. How do you deal with that into building it into your solution?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, honestly, most of the responsibilities on the software itself to be very easy to use. You'll be surprised that even OpenAI has, I think 40%, I read it somewhere, 40% of people that go on OpenAI end up never using it again because of exactly that. They don't really know what to say, how to say it. The beauty of leveraging Dextego for a team is that it becomes better and better through the collective intelligence of that team. So to give you an example, if 10 out of 20 people in the team have asked the same question, which could be, how do we differ from competitor X? Now, Dextego understands that the team is struggling with this, like competitive differentiation, and now makes a point to not only be proactive in telling the end user, hey, would you like to speak about XYZ today? But also it tells the manager, whether it's the sales enablement leader or the sales leader themselves, hey, your team is struggling with 1, 2, 3. So it's more important that the system helps the user know what they need to develop rather than just being a chat where if you don't know what to ask, it can help you. That's how we're trying to combat this by making it very self-service, but also proactive in the prompts. So you can write, of course, what you want, but as you use it and it understands you, it will suggest also questions and topics to go through. I hope that helped. And then for the question about the languages, today it's only in English, but within the next quarter, we're adding Spanish, French, and Greek that we have had requests for. In the near future, I'm sure we'll add all languages as well. Perfect. Have I missed any question, Alexandria?
There's a new one that just popped in, integration with CRMs and sales process. Would Dextego allow simulation training with voice skills?
Yes, great question. There's two things we're actually doing outside of just the voice. It's personalizing the practice for the exact prospect you're about to meet. So it's not just generic, I'm speaking to a VP of sales, for instance. It's I'm speaking to Alexandra tomorrow, and because we know what information you have about Alexandra in your CRM, we can really coach you in a way that you'll succeed speaking to her. So what does Alexandra care about? What have you discussed previously? For example, maybe she mentioned budget was an issue last time. And the cool thing we're building right now is an integration to LinkedIn as well. So not only CRM, but if you're about to speak again to Alexandra and you're on her profile, we want to make sure that Dextego pops up and helps coach you proactively again in your existing workspace. So you don't just have to go to another app. Whether you're in CRM or LinkedIn, we'll have this backend communication to make sure you're prepared for when you speak to her. And the voice skill, absolutely. So you'll actually be able, right now you saw it's video and text. You'll be able to leave also voice notes, and the sentiment analysis we do in the video will also happen for that. Perfect. All right, we have 10 more minutes. As you think of other questions, I'll quickly show you the admin panel, because I think it's important to understand why we build it the way we build it. I believe there's just a plethora of enterprise SaaS that we use in the day-to-day, and they are great at creating analytics. But at the end of the day, the analytics itself won't take you far unless you know what to look for. So we have this quick summary, and this is fake data. I mean, it's a demo, so don't really pay attention to that. But the importance is to know that the solution that you're deploying in your team is being used, number one. So very quickly, you can see usage. And second, you want to add value to get something out of it. So we tell you what is the overall coachability of your team, the highest and the lowest. So you can go in and start to read about these specific users and why their coachability is so low or high and what's happening. Now, the other thing is in terms of roles. So again, these are examples. Let's say you have an SDR team, an AE team, a manager team. You can add as many roles as you want and assign different challenges, like the objections we saw, or different pieces. And on a high level, you can see how the entire team is doing when it comes to these things by understanding the collective skills that the team has, as well as their gaps. So for the entire company, you can understand immediately where they're lacking, how they're doing in comparison to each other, and dive into the low scores. So color coding here, we see green, these are all high scores. Then we see yellow, which is medium. Then we see red, which is low. That's what you should be focusing on. If everything goes great, don't spend your time on the analytics. But if something is alerting, go in and understand why. You can read exactly what the end user said, what the feedback was, and then when you have that one-on-one with them, you can focus on adaptability as a main area of weakness. You can also download the data, put in a performance review in other systems. And the same goes for PCs, by the way, and everything else. You can see collective analytics and then for a specific person. Now, I think that another very important metric is the in-app feedback that the end user gives. If they don't like the coaching they get, you shouldn't spend money on a solution. But if they do, and you can make your day-to-day easier by understanding where you need to help them, then that's the type of solution you need. And that's how I was also analyzing solutions when I was working in sales enablement. Like, do they use it? Do they get value? Does it help me do my day-to-day better? So that is a bit about the admin panel. Now, I'll just share one thing about where we're going, because that's something that a lot of people have asked. Since we have all these analytics on your skills level, we will be launching a peer-to-peer mentorship community where it will be up to you if you want that to be only amongst your team members or outside users. And we'll be able to match people based on these skills, what they need to develop and what they can offer to someone else for extra support and more of a community component, not just AI coaching. So I think that's all I want to share with you today. I don't want to be too much as the first interaction, but I've also put my email here in my name. It's ioannadextego.com in case you have any questions or want to see a personalized demo outside of today. So Alexander, I'll come back to you if you also have anything to add, any questions. I'm happy to answer for a few minutes here.
I don't see any new questions coming into the chat, but I'll give folks a moment. So I guess one of the questions I was seeing before is just how long does it take to get set up if folks do want to run with this? Is there a sandbox option, free trial or something? Sometimes that helps sort of make the case for some internal stakeholders and make sense of things. What does that kind of whole process look like?
Yeah, so today we do offer 1 week free trial for teams where we basically open it up for 5 to 10 sales reps and then the manager. And in that 1 week, they're able to very quickly get value out of it because through the admin panel that I shared, they can see strengths and weaknesses, coachability. They can see how many pitches and challenges the team practice, and they can also customize them. So we just did that actually a few weeks ago with a client where they included it as part of their SKO, and then another that included it as part of onboarding of a new hire to be able to quickly assess where that salesperson is. Particularly for junior sales teams, like first-time SDRs, founding SDRs, or people with just a couple of years of experience, we see that it can really help the leader understand how likely they are to ramp up and contribute to revenue fast. It's important to also know that we started for sales use cases, but the same methodology can be used for customer success teams, marketing teams. And in fact, we see many times that clients come for sales and then they expand it to the rest of the revenue team because now they see how all these teams can cohesively work together and create better value to their buyer. Because it's very important that the sales team doesn't oversell and then the customer success under delivers. Rather, everybody is able to be at the same page, share the same language in terms of the benefits of the product or service they're selling, etc. So all that to say that the setup really depends on also how much you want to customize it, but in one day you can immediately have your team, like you can invite them through just an email link, and then they can come in and start leveraging the coaching, and you'll be able to track the usage and results from the admin panel. Now, at the end of that week, you can choose like if you want to continue and add more users or you want to stop. But yeah, if you email me and you're interested in a 1-week trial, we can set it up super fast.
And you had mentioned you were going to show some of that admin panel. I'm curious for folks
I just did, yeah, that was the last thing I showed, but I wanted to show you how you can customize it as well, because I think it's hard to imagine unless you show it in action. Let me go ahead and share again my screen. All right. So within a role, so here you see all the access I have given to someone like org panel, users, etc. If I scroll all the way down, that's where I can add learning content. Learning content is simply, for instance, a script, like script for Dextego, and then I copy paste here the content, and I can choose if I want it to be visible for the end user or not. Once I do, the end user sees it basically as assigned by their manager. You can add as much learning content as you want. There's no limitation to that. And you can add it for specific users. So you can add basically as many users as you want in every role. So back to the example of having BDRs, SDRs, and all of that. And then you can assign the learning content for each role. Same for custom challenges. These were the scenario-based situations. So let's say the scenario is customer sees the demo and is asking questions about implementation. You respond, and they tell you they can't proceed as it will take too much time. And then the question could be, how do you react? Now you can assign and let you make it visible for the end user. Now you assign the learning content, which is the ideal response to this. So basically the end user responds how they would react, and Dextego assess them against this ideal response. And that's it really. I mean, it's all about the addition of the learning content, the pieces, and the challenges for the day-to-day. Now, if you have a CRM, as we discussed earlier, or a learning management system, and you want to also integrate it, so that when an end user asks a question, it takes information from that like course you've created already or that best practice, we can do that as well. I had a VP of sales that was attending 10 conferences within like 2 months. And so they uploaded best practices and one-pagers for each and every of these conferences so that he makes sure reps were prepared. They knew who was attending each conference, what are the topics, what were the presentations, and they were ready to go there and have conversations with attendees without being lost. So these are just some examples of how people have used the platform so far.
Super helpful. I was curious if your brain was going to go where mine was, which is if you have different teams that have different purposes for why they want to use it, and they also want private access. So this manager doesn't want these other teams or departments to see their staff's, their team direct reports information. Is there a way to sort of set it up in that way as well?
Yeah, exactly. And it's up to you. There's so much availability for customization that, for instance, if you don't want the end users to see how they're doing in comparison to each other, you can turn that off. If you want it to be competitive, you can turn it on. The other thing I'll say, and I'll finish here, is it's very important to add incentives, right? So if at the end of quarter, for instance, they're doing great, shout out, give them a gift card, something, so that you increase that learning culture within the team. So that's all. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the demo.
Great, thank you so much. I know we barely scratched the surface, but hopefully this gave folks ideas. So if we didn't get to the customization that you're exactly looking for, it didn't quite answer your questions, then please reach out to the Dextego team. If you look at the contact information for Ioana, she actually has her email address right there and looks like she's going to pop it into the chat. So reach out if we didn't get to your question yet. And hopefully you all take a quick break and join us back at 12:45 Eastern Time for our next demo with Pluralsight. We'll see you all soon. Thanks.